Let's talk about a common case within the distributive property, which is when we multiply one parenthesis by a second parenthesis. What we need to do is distribute one of the parentheses inside of the other parenthesis. For this specific situation, we're going to distribute the first parenthesis within the second parenthesis. But how do we do this? Well, we take the first term of the first parenthesis, that x, and we multiply it by the first term in the second parenthesis, the 2x. X times 2x is 2x squared, and we move it to our answer. Now we continue with that first term, the x in the first parenthesis, and now we multiply it by the second term in the second parenthesis, or the negative 3. X times negative 3, negative 3x, and we move it to the answer. We finished distributing the first term. Now we move to the second term in the first parenthesis, which is a negative 4. We take the negative 4, and now we multiply it by the first term in the second parenthesis, which is 2x. Negative 4 times 2x, negative 8x, and we move it to our answer. And yes, as we multiply these terms, we write them in the same order in the answer. Finally, what do we have? The negative 4 from the first parenthesis times the second term in the second parenthesis, which is negative 3. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12, and we move it to our answer. We distributed both parentheses, we multiplied everything. What do we need to do now? We need to be careful because sometimes we can combine like terms, like in this situation. The 2x squared doesn't have any like terms, there are no more x squares, and the positive 12s either, because we don't have any more constants, we don't have any more terms without x. But we do have the negative 3x and the negative 8x. Both of them have an x or an x to the power of 1 that makes them like terms. We can combine them. Two negatives, we add them and we keep the negative, so we have negative 11x, and we move it to the answer. And after we combine like terms, this is the answer. And this is the process. This will always be the process. Sometimes the parentheses will be harder terms, or longer. We can have parentheses with more terms, but the process is the same. We just keep distributing and multiplying the first term by all of the second parentheses, or the second term by all of the second parentheses, and then make sure you combine like terms.